Okay, about 4 years ago, I began the process of writing and filming a horror film called Scars of a Predator. This last Saturday night, we premiered it in front of an enthusiastic crowd, and now we are going to chat about it with three of the stars of the film, who I will introduce momentarily, but keep in mind, as the show began, you were listening to a tune that will soon become infamous. See the movie, and you'll know why. Okay, first, to my left, on the futon, we have the lovely Samantha Cole.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Andy.
Weren't you there a couple of months ago?
Yes, I was. I was on the Scream Queens panel. Thank you so much for having me again.
You realize this is the closest I come to a second date? I can really say she came back just like in the movies, right? No, but, okay, as I remember, we began this film with me tying you to a bed.
Was that the first scene we shot?
And I wonder why women don't call back. Yeah, we actually filmed the certain scenes before we actually got upstate that we needed to include. We will get back to that in detail later. But first, on the far end, one of the nicest guys ever to murder 4 women. Everyone's favorite serial killer, the lovely and talented Scott Kozel.
Thank you for having me.
So Scott, what is it like killing your friends?
Yeah, it just lets you know that fantasies do come true. So
Okay, good one. I like it. All right, and sitting in the middle, standing between me and a horrible, brutal death, we have the ever-brooding detective,
There you go.
Anthony Congiano.
Hello.
So we're having some pretty... We're having some really good horror movie weather out there today.
Yeah.
Rainy, nasty. It made me think of you. I could see you on a stakeout in this weather with a cup of cold coffee, waiting for him to pop his head out of a doorway, probably holding someone else's head.
That would work. That would totally work. I could see that. And
So-
for those of you at home who don't understand what I have to brood through the whole movie because somebody wrote my character that way.
That's the way I know you, pal. I try to keep people true to their character. No, but actually, people are often very different than their character. Samantha was an interesting mix of things. We don't want to give away too much of the film, but what was that experience like getting murdered by Scott?
You're not giving away too much at all. She dies, by the way.
Well, yeah. Well, that's on the poster.
That's true.
That's no mystery.
It was a very fun death scene, I have to say. It was very fun to shoot. I died in a very gruesome, disgusting, gory manner and perverted manner also. It was really fun.
Get the kids and tune in. Yeah, but that was, I thought, very effective. It was a very effective scene. So have you been murdered on film before? I know we talked about this somewhat last time.
Yes, I have.
You told me about some kind of weird thing people did to you.
I don't remember that. I know I got my throat slit and...
Throat slit, good.
Oh, I can't remember all the ways.
Oh, it's repression after those kind of traumatic experiences.
Yeah, a couple times in plays and stuff. I also been
plays.
stabbed and strangled to death. Yeah, strangled to death. That was a good one. That was a really good one. And that was in Othello. Yeah. I know in the play she gets smothered, but in this play we did a strangling. We changed it up a little bit.
So you've done theater as well as film. Do you have any preference?
No, I like both. I love both. Why must I choose?
Calm down. She can get a little scary sometimes. No, but so you really are equally comfortable. What are the challenges of one as compared to the other? Is there anything that's more challenging for you?
The challenge with theater is that when you get booked for a play, then if you get a film, you can't do that film because you're in that play. You have to be there that night for like 2 weeks. Every weekend night, you have to be there and you have to say no to the film job. So
It's also one take, kind of like tonight.
that's true.
So you can't screw up.
That's true. I kind of like that a little bit better because it's not as you don't get as obsessive about it because it's just you do it and it's done and that's done and then maybe next night you could try something different. You could try to do it better next night, but like that's it. We're done. It's done for the night.
Speaking of live performances, you have actually worked with Scott in a haunted house, as I recall.
Yes.
What was that like, Scott? What was it like? Did you get to kill her then too, or what?
No, she wasn't in my room for the killing. I do remember you helped me make some people disappear a few nights, so that was good. But it was funny, I knew we were doing that before we would be filming Scars of a Predator. And I was like, I'm going to work with her and I'm going to end up loving her, and then we're going to get to the scene where I have to murder her, and I'm just going to be like, I don't want to do it. And of course, that's exactly what happened. We got to that day shooting, and every time I did something, I was like, are you okay? Are you all right? And eventually, even she was just like, I'm fine. Just
Is that
kill
knife
me
in your
already. Come on."
intestines okay? You have any problem with that? No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that was a point that I was going to raise with Anthony as well. You guys obviously, well, you don't hate each other too much, but you guys are friends. What was it like when you're in a role like that? I mean, I know you do a lot of acting. You've probably had these situations before. What is it like having to act like you hate somebody's guts when you actually like them in real life? How complicated is that?
It's actually easier and more fun to do it that way than working with somebody that you actually despise or don't respect, which doesn't happen that often. But with Scott's just fun. He and I hit it off right off the bat. I mean, the first shoot when we were all sitting on the couch and we did the first reading, even though we realized he was the serial killer and I'm the detective, we were hugging and stuff on the selfies, which was funny. I got along with Scott really, really well. So it's all just acting and just having a good time with it.
So that was the other side that I was going to bring up. Have you had to do like a love scene with some girl you couldn't stand? What's that like?
But couldn't stand now.
Or even like in acting classes or something?
Maybe once or twice when I was at Shakespeare and Company, there were some people didn't get. I don't get along with absolutely everybody, but
Really?
most people I do. But it's acting. You go right into the role, and you're in that character. You're in that mindset at the time. So anything personal you have just gets pushed aside. You don't really concentrate on it that much.
Is there any technique that helps with that?
Just being in character is putting yourself in your character's shoes, understanding your character's motivation. And Uta Hagen teaches a number of things in her theater classes where understand where your character's coming from and where your character's going, your arrival and your destination. Because you don't just enter a room with your hands at your sides for no reason. You're coming into the room for a reason, and you're coming from somewhere. And that type of methodology in your head paints the picture of how you're going to behave when you walk in. Because if I walk in and say her and I are doing a scene, I just don't walk in and talk to her. I'm coming from somewhere, and if I had a bad day at work, or I just had a fight with my wife and I'm meeting her, I'm going to be in a much different position than if I'm coming in here and her and I are on a date in the scene. Or she's my boss and I'm coming over for dinner or something like that. I'm going to handle myself a different way. My character's going to handle himself a different way. And hopefully that will translate to the audience seeing how I'm trying to get the character to be perceived.
Okay, let's get back to the movie for a minute, because there were so many twists and turns in the making of this film, not the least of which was, well, as I mentioned, the very first thing I did was tie you to a bed, which was fun, but after we got that kind of stuff done, we had the big chunk of the movie. The biggest thing we had to do was right up front when we went upstate to Craryville, New York, to our lighting guy, our sound guy's house, Enrique, with 12 people for 2 days, right? And that actually got delayed into the cold weather because Scott had to shave to play John Wayne Gacy in that dopey haunted house. And he had to let his scruffiness grow back to please the bitchy director. And then we got up there, and what did we discover but no heat, no water, no power?
The trifecta.
The horror!
That
And
was
it was oddly cold in that time of the year. Like, it was winter weather and we had no heat.
So it's at night in the country up there. I mean,
Oh,
during
yeah.
the day it wasn't bad, but like if you guys recall, we called it the power company to see what they could do, and they just said right away, nothing we can do, which filled me with confidence. So I'm across the street filling buckets of water to dump down the toilet so it will flush. Your typical film director type of role, and they're trying to call and rent a generator, but somehow they managed to get the heat and and not the heat, the water and the power going. Well, we were way behind, and this is when Scott and G. Paul came into play, who kind of saved the shoot by doing actually an excellent job there. Because you guys had a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
And I do give myself a little credit. We were well rehearsed, but they had to get all of this stuff right in a fairly limited amount of takes when we were already set behind. Because I remember driving the special effects gal up there with me from Brooklyn, and we stopped to get something to eat. And I'm like, yeah, well, we're going to be doing about 20 pages of the script. She said, sometimes doing 1 page of the script can take you like 3 days. I couldn't eat. I just took it to go. But you guys, you really did very well. But I don't know, before that got going, did you guys start to wonder if this was going to happen at all? Do you guys remember that at all? Sorry, Anthony, you weren't invited.
I wasn't there for that
You really
scene.
missed a good time.
But we were freezing when we shot outside the bar.
Oh.
That was unbelievable. You finished this part, but it was so cold.
Oh, out there.
We have photographs of Mike and I standing there.
Icicles.
Everyone is in these
Icicles.
giant puffy coats, like right out of Seinfeld. Like George is wearing his Gore-Tex.
Well, that
so
wasn't
cold.
That wasn't so cold. It wouldn't have been so cold, except
we got delayed. I remember that.
Yes.
We got really delayed.
we managed to get a decent day of weather because it was a cold winter. And I don't remember when it was. It might have been February or something. But we got a decent day of weather. And then the guy who was filming it, JR, got a phone call for an emergency and had to leave. Didn't tell us where he was going. Came back like an hour and a half later.
And the weather plunged. I remember
And
that.
at that point, poor old Vinny Vella, I had driven him all the way there and rehearsed his lines with him all the way in the car. Then it's Vinny's tired. People are coming up to him on the street and asking like for a picture. He was distracted. The whole thing went so late, and by then it was like freezing, like you said. At least we couldn't see your breath.
That's true. I think you could in a couple of days. I saw the premiere. I
Gotta
saw
get
the
some
preview.
close-ups.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, that was.
Where were we with you two though? It was 'cause I
We had to
interrupted.
filter out the street noise, which was also a pain in the ass, which wasn't there earlier. These are the things that come up when you're making an independent film. Oh, but yeah. So, how did you guys feel? Do you remember this? That we're up there and nothing was working, and we're trying to figure out how to get this freaking thing done because we had a lot to do.
Yes, I remember that. I think the ladies, the other actresses, we went down to the lake and sort of just, I'm sorry, but we sort of let you guys handle that, and we just went to the lake. I'm sorry. We just, I don't know, I
There
guess
could be another
let you guys
movie in
handle
there
that.
somewhere.
But yeah,
Four
it was
Girls
very
by the
beautiful,
Lake.
nice day. The lake was beautiful.
It was nice early, yeah.
Yeah.
I was over by the lake too, filling buckets of water.
Oh.
That was fun.
So,
But then, you know what else I remember from that day? After we finally got things rolling and we were filming them, you four were upstairs having what sounded like a party. What was going on up there?
We were making out, okay, everyone? We were making out. Just
Okay,
kidding, we didn't
ratings.
make out. There was no making out.
Basically,
Oh.
stripped
No,
down
we
they
just
James.
having
were
fun.
all in 90s, so.
Yeah, it was like,
You know.
you guys you had one of the space heaters up there, I think Scott's maybe. You
Yeah.
guys were having a good time in
I
the
think
bedroom.
we did. We had a
because
really good
eventually
time.
we did need to film up there.
We were just hanging out and having fun.
Okay.
Girl talk, girl talk.
I
Girl
like
talk.
to be involved in girl talk. Got to get some hidden microphones when I film something. Then we could have had a reality series as well.
Did you just say you were going to put hidden microphones on the girls next time? Did you actually just say that? All right, that's cool.
Not in the ladies' room.
Okay.
That was your idea.
No, it wasn't.
Oh. But have you guys done any reality television? That's got to be weird stuff mic'd all over the place.
No, no
never done it,
reality.
never done it.
Done a lot, 2 years of theater, a lot of little Discovery ID TV series, some featured work on some of the major stuff, a couple of indies, obviously including yours. Never did reality though.
Well,
Scott?
those are only a few of the things that went wrong in the making of this movie. Sadly, there were 3 people, not actually in the movie, but 3 people who died in the course of the early part of making this movie. We didn't even get out of 2 or 3 days of shooting.
People died?
Yeah. Well, that first sequence that we filmed in the cabin, I thought we got everything done. I thought we were going to get everything done. The last day, we let all you guys go home, kept Scott, and we just had, a couple of hours of filming to go. And the director of photography had to leave. So we left everything set up. That was a Sunday. We're coming back Thursday to finish the shoot. Then his uncle died.
Oh no.
Ah, it's terrible.
And then that weekend, he couldn't make it one day, and Enrique couldn't make it the other day. Then the weather turned, no heat upstate. We finished that scene 7 months later.
Oh my gosh.
You remember that, Scott, having to like put everything back in place?
Yep.
How much of a challenge was that? Were you worried about not like looking the same? I know you didn't have much of a problem styling your hair.
Yeah.
But
Thanks. It was just making sure I remembered everything, because some of that stuff is actually mine. So then we had to get other things from other places, and it was crazy.
But it's interesting, you really can't tell when you watch the movie that this one scene, part was filmed now and part was filmed 7 months ago.
I did not notice that. I remember thinking that, and I couldn't tell what had been filmed when. And
You know, we had to get all the crap on the table in the same places, and it was really, I mean, we had stills, and we had to put everything in the same place. So, first, JR's uncle died. Then, sadly, we were about to, the next scene we were supposed to film was the only scene that ever got canceled in the making of the film, because we had this bar we were supposed to film in, and then they decided they couldn't do it. That didn't get it. That was the thing that ended up getting filmed in the coldest day of all of our filming, in that bar in the Bronx.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's when Mike and I were at the bar, and I was brooding again. That's what my character does.
Do you remember what almost went wrong with that scene that got salvaged?
I remember shooting really late at night and there being like a gazillion people there.
Well, we had to bring everybody up. This nice guy, Dazzy, I know you're back in Africa where he's actually from, but he was very helpful. He had a van and chauffeured a whole bunch of us up there. And we get ready to film, and this jackhammer starts outside from like the city. They're jackhammering, and you could hear it clearly, right, in our sound. And we said to the owner, you know, how long could this last? He said, could go all night.
you can't jackhammer at night.
I don't
like
remember that.
They were jackhammering, and it was night. All right, so we go outside to talk to them. Luckily, it was just going to go on for like another 10 minutes. And then we had no problem with the audio. But that was interesting. But yeah, so after JR's uncle died, then we had that scene canceled. Now we're ready to do the courtroom scene. And then sadly, Scott's sister passed away.
Condolences, brother.
And I got to say, once again, like a trooper. I mean, we managed to do that scene, and it was great. And if you remember, there's a couple of things in there where we're talking about not your real sister, but your sister in the movie that weren't really positive. And we asked, are you going to be... You actually brought that up to me. You said, you should talk to Scott and see how he's going to feel about this. And he was fine. So that's two people. And when Scott told me about that, I called JT, who did the casting, to tell him, and he gets a text message that his friend just died.
Damn.
That was 3. We were going on 4, because when we're filming the courtroom scene, one of the extras gets a call and has to leave because her uncle was just rushed to the hospital.
Oh my god.
But the limit is 3. So we were okay after that. Any weird stuff happened to you when we were making this movie?
Nope. Luckily, I was okay.
Anthony, anything? Changes in your blood pressure or anything?
No, blood pressure's actually low.
No
Thank God wood, that's all good. Nothing that unusual, other than that it took a very long time to do it. I do recall it months between different...
So 7 months to film, and that was largely because of 2 things. It would have been much shorter, but we had to wait till the weather turned upstate to go back and finish that scene.
Oh yeah.
And the very last thing, and Anthony gets major credit for this part,
Okay.
we needed a kid to play young Scott.
Oh, Michael, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And we had no kid. That's what held this whole thing up, was getting a kid. And you knew Michael Rich, who did what we got to see at the premiere last week, who's now like 3 feet taller than he was back then.
He got tall, he definitely got tall, yeah.
He was like taller than Scott now.
I don't think that's physically possible, but all right.
He was very good in the film. Is
Yeah,
he an
he was.
actor?
Yeah, I
Okay,
worked with him
very good.
on 2 other independent films. That's why what happens. Andy contacted me in his typical phone call. You wouldn't believe what's wrong with the movie now, because I was getting a lot of those phone calls. And he's telling me on and on how hard it was for him to get a kid that could physically be Scott at a younger age, who's got some experience, et cetera,
Good Southern accent.
who could do a Southern accent. And after Andy, I let Andy just complain for about 3 or 4 minutes easily, and then I
That's
just said,
normal.
well, you know what? I do happen to know Mike and Remy. I've worked with them a couple of times. They're good. I'll send them over to you. And worked that
The
night.
rest is history.
You auditioned him, you liked him, and
The rest is
killed
history.
it.
In fact, it's
He killed
history
it.
from 20 years ago because it was a flashback scene.
Yeah, he killed it. He did great. He did a great
He did
job.
do an excellent job. And his mother, more than anybody, was dying to see this thing.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
happy that we finally got to.
Well, it's nice because they've been involved in a number of indie projects, and one thing that does happen a lot in indie projects is they never see the light of day. That happens too often. You put a tremendous amount of time and effort doing your work, sometimes for little, sometimes for no money. Especially before I was SAG, a lot of times you get cast in something, there's not going to be any pay. You're doing it for exposure, which I could ramble on about for about an hour. But
You've exposed yourself enough.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. But you're doing it mostly to get footage for your reel. You're doing it to network. You're doing it to meet and greet people with hopefully that once the movie comes out, that the director, the writer, other people you meet will begin to move up in their careers and remember you. And that's the main reason you're doing it. But as Mike and Remy's mom have been with me in at least 2 other movies that neither of them have seen the light of day yet, but hopefully someday they will. But it was wonderful for her to actually show up, see a premiere, and actually see her son on the screen.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I really made sure I somehow got this thing finished, because there were a number of other trapdoors that we fell through along the way, but I didn't want people to think I was one of these guys who says they're making a movie and it never comes out, because like you, I've been in a bunch of stuff that, never ends up getting finished.
Yeah, I remember these phone calls. I do remember you specifically telling me this is going to get done, this is going to get finished. I am not going to be like, I will not say any names. I will not be like this guy, or this guy.
It's going to come with subtitles, don't worry.
You're going to rewrite it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a list of what to list.
Yeah, but different projects that haven't been finished. And
Yes.
we know, as an actor, if you're up and coming, you don't just step out of acting class and suddenly you're co-starring on Gotham. It doesn't happen like that. You're going to do little shorts and you're going to do little Discovery ID recreation things, and that's the way the business is. But the footage should come out. At some point, these movies should see the light of day. Too often they don't.
Yeah, a lot of them don't ever forget about come out and get finished.
Yeah,
there were things, I was mentioning to you before, I filmed something where we got one day of filming it, in the middle of the day we got thrown out of the place we were, and that was the end of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I really have to commend you and congratulate you on getting this film done, especially with
The
all
only guy
these
any of us know that
pitfalls
finished the movie.
all the trials and the tribulations that you went through.
Yes.
This is, you stuck with it, and there it is, the premiere, and yeah. So I wanna
Speaking of
commend you for that.
trials, you gave poor Anthony a hard time in that courtroom.
No, you know who I really gave a hard time was Alan, our judge. You remember? He was like, I need you to look somewhere else while I'm talking to you. Like, please, you're getting me too nervous here.
Why were you making him nervous?
Is when he's running his verdict, I was just in character.
Oh.
And he was like, I don't want to yell at you. Please just look away.
Well, that's in real life, giving someone a hard time, but in the movie, you were giving Anthony a real hard time.
Yeah.
But that worked out well.
Yeah, he in character was not going to stop until I threw a punch at him. Which, by the way, you need to put that in there. When you see, where's the punch? I threw a punch at him.
Don't discuss too many details. I might want at least 3 more people to see this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
True. But
everyone in America watches this show. So.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, we literally every household in the country.
They based the Nielsen's on this show. Did you know that?
I did. I heard that. I definitely heard that.
Yes. So, you were actually, an interesting point you just brought up, were people who were, you brought up, you hope to be in someone else's thing, and then they move on. But some people in this movie did some interesting things, including you. I remember watching one of my favorite shows, Law & Order SVU, and someone was harassing the DA, the ADA in the elevator.
Yeah.
And then your face was stuck in the middle of the elevator.
Yeah, I had to go chase him down. That was fun. That's nice little. That's what they call a featured part. You get I reoccur a lot as an NYPD guy. I was on Blue Bloods also. I was fortunate enough, feeling blessed to get a featured part in that. Kevin Can Wait, I'm featured bartender, and that's a wonderful set. That's a wonderful set. I mean, actually, it's different than Law and Order or SVU, which are all equally wonderful, but being a comedy, Kevin Can Wait is just, everyone is joking. From the CBS executives that are on the phones watching from California, to the director, to Kevin James, to the whole cast. It's a lot of fun. But it is the one thing, these little featured spots that I've gotten on some of the majors, that's really what sort of turned my parents around a bit. Because my dad, I remember when I first left IT work and I started acting, my dad, whenever I'd call him and tell him, hey, I got an audition for this, or I got a little part on this show, or a little part in this little short, and he'd say, so when are you going on a real interview? When are you getting a real job? That was it. And then when he saw me on Gotham, it was like, when are you going to be on Gotham again? What's happening? I got to tell everybody. So he got really excited about the little bits, parts and stuff. So that was a lot of fun.
Well, the first thing I saw you in after we started filming was, I didn't get to see your face, but I saw your baseball bat. You were whacking some guy in some kind of true crime thing.
Inside the American Mob. That was in that Geo show. Yeah, I played Charles Corniglia, one of Gotti's hitmen. And we shot a lot more footage than what they showed, but that was actually my first legit IMDb credit for that. First time I had that was very shortly after Shakespeare and Company. So that was it might have been my very first time ever on TV, I think.
Speaking of seeing some of my cast in other things, I remember shortly after we started filming, there you were as like a prostitute. You had some good footage.
Which one?
Which time?
Which time? There's been a couple times.
She's been around.
Yes,
It was another true crime thing. You were laying in bed in lingerie.
Oh yes.
What was that?
Escort. It's called an escort.
Yes, an escort.
Yeah, I got to be careful what I say because I have a retired escort on the show regularly. I called her former and she went nuts on me. I don't understand the difference between former and retired. Retired escort. Well, you were a current escort in this thing.
So it was My Dirty Little Secret.
So what was that experience like for you?
That was really fun. It was really fun. It was a little embarrassing because I was like in a bra and underwear and in fishnets and stuff, and I had money and I was like rubbing the money. It was pretty fun. It was silly.
That was overdressed compared to my movie.
It was silly. It was very fun though. It was fun.
Okay, well, have you done other stuff that we would be able to see you visibly in? No other real, major TV stuff?
So I had a co-star on Blind Spot and a co-star on The Blacklist this last year, and I just was in an episode of Shadow, 2 episodes of Shadow of Doubt. One time I played the victim, and the other time I played just a smaller part. And
well, you had a decent part in my friend Jogo Wallace's movie there.
Oh yes, Around Every Corner.
Yes.
That was a great experience.
So, what's the difference between getting to work with a bunch of your friends like you did in that, or working on something where you don't know anybody? That's another good question for Anthony, because you work in a lot of things where you're just working in a regular industry kind of role. So, is that more challenging to work with a bunch of strangers when you've got to hate somebody, like somebody, or is that easier with your friends?
I think it's easier, more relaxed with your friends, and but it's the same challenge, and it's the same type of job. You got to do your acting, so similar. But I get nervous on both because for one, your friends are all watching. Like you get nervous. You want to do a good job. You don't want them to think you're terrible. And then with new people that you don't know, you sort of feel like you have to prove. I don't know. That's not probably the way you should do it. But you sort of feel like you have to. I don't know. In both cases, you're always trying to prove yourself. It's ridiculous.
Right. She has nothing to prove. But she's 100 proof already. So, Anthony, you've been in, obviously, an assortment of both. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference for you, would you say?
It's this little more camaraderie right off the bat when you're working with friends and people you already know. Most sets are extremely welcoming to you. It's not 99% of the time. It's not what you typically see.
It's not the horror stories you expect, where
not at all.
Yelling at you and berating you and stuff.
Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen at all. There's always. When I was
everyone can't be as nice as me.
That is true. That is true. But I remember at being a Maroney henchman in season 1 on Gotham, and I became friends with DJ a bit, who was David Zayas' son. David played Maroney, and my crime boss against Falcone. And I remember sitting down with DJ at lunch, talking to him a little bit, and David Zayas comes over, sits down next to us, and he's talking a little bit, and then DJ gets up to go get a drink. So I just sort of, I'm sitting here now with his son, and he's a major star on the show. So I just said to him, let me get out of your hair and pick up my tray. He's like, no, sit down, brother. Tell me about you. What are you doing? I mean, he was being super nice. And Robin, who plays Penguin on that show, is like just bouncing off the wall, super friendly with everyone. Cammy is really nice. Drew who plays Butch, always gives me a bear hug. I ended up standing in for him a couple of times, which is just another aspect. You were on Gotham too, this season 2, right? What was? Yeah, would you find a similar experience or what? Guess I'm going to put you on the spot now. Yell at
the actors were very nice. It was just a really hard shoot because we were shooting in the middle of the summer, dressed for late November. One of the shoots we had, it was in the 90s, direct sunlight, no cover, no anything, for hours and hours. And it wasn't until 4 hours in that someone was like, we should probably give that guy some sunblock for his head because it's just there. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, 4 hours later, great. But, I mean, actually, I've gotten to work very closely to Michael Chiklis a couple times.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he's a fun guy. He was joking around with me one time. So.
Well, What's Its Name was one of my favorite shows, The Shield.
Yeah.
So that actually brought up a point I wanted to ask you, because he was in The Commish and The Shield, which was such totally different roles. You kind of got the potential to be typecast as a scary character. Have you played any other really different type of role?
Funny thing is, I was supposed to once. There was going to be a scene set, I think, sometime in the 1800s in a barn. Someone was going to give birth. I think it was actually supposed to be Danielle Harper.
Oh.
And I was supposed to be this gruff farmhand who witnesses the child being born and is just blown away by the miracle of life. Well, that's what I found out it was originally when I got a call about it. They're like, are you okay working with a baby? And I just went, oh, God, you don't want me to eat the poor thing, do you? They're like, not this time.
Because I'm not doing that again.
Time, yeah. And they're like, no, you're just going to have this beautiful, tender moment with this child. I'm like, okay, great, let's do this. And then it wound up snowing and snowing and snowing, and we couldn't even get to the place.
So you've had a lot of weather problems.
Yeah.
Snow, heat.
Yeah. And then they're like, we waited too long. The child is no longer a newborn, so we're just going to cut the scene.
They had to film the scene when the kid was 12. That's why they had to get Scott, because originally they had a much shorter guy playing with him, but they had to get the dimensions right.
Usually I either end up as a Russian criminal, a prison inmate,
or
a Nazi.
You make a great redneck.
Thank you.
But would you like to try to play something very different? I mean, you've got a certain
I'd
physical
love
type.
to, but you're not exactly going to be shooting a remake of Kindergarten Cop with me. I walk into the room, the children start screaming. They start going, the boogeyman is real, they lied to us. Ah!
So they won't be working you into Sesame Street?
Unfortunately, no, unless they need a new person for the Sweetums suit. I can pull off the size. So, but, yeah.
So, yeah, there were a lot of interesting parts. Oh, also, I was just thinking back, the title song, which actually I'm quite fond of, having written it. The guy...
Toot your own horn there, but yeah.
I should have brought a horn with me like Harpo. But the guy who sang it, who was actually there the other night, first time I met him, I wrote a bunch of songs for a band that he performed in like 20 years ago. Never met the guy. Now I finally met him at the premiere. He was supposed to record the title song, and then like his mother fell down a flight of stairs or something and hurt herself. And then he was supposed to do it again, and he got really sick, and he couldn't do it, so that delayed that whole thing. I was actually talking about this on Alan's show, The Way to Go. I filmed that. When we were in the middle of doing this movie, he had me on to talk about the movie. Our judge in my movie, Alan Bendage. But yeah, a lot of crazy stuff. You know, it was one of the more fun things. The last scene that we filmed was the scene with little Michael and Dennis Matos, his daughter, who also did a very good job. And I saw her at the premiere, and she's also like, 30 years old now, married with 4 kids.
They do get bigger, yes, they do.
Bizarre. But, so, obviously know Michelle, and we were supposed to film this scene in fake Tennessee, which was actually Staten Island, but we couldn't because she actually had to go to Tennessee. And she'd never even been there before, right? I mean, there's so many weird things. One of my favorite things, when we were in the middle of RSVPs coming in, and I think I sent this to you, or Scott, I might have sent it to you. In the middle of the RSVPs coming in for the premiere, I created a Facebook private event, and at that point, 66 people had RSVP'd yes, 6 maybe, and 66 didn't respond yet. So we were actually at 66666.
I remember you texting that to me. I have that in my phone where you're like, I'm looking at this and like, really? That's an omen, literally.
I did not manipulate that. We almost did the premiere, by the way, on Friday the 13th, which was like the week before. But I really think we might have been pressing our luck.
There you go.
Although when I first got there at this one, there was a ladder set up because they were fixing something on the projector.
You can walk under the ladder.
I would have done that. I would have had a ladder at the entrance for everyone to walk through. Don't steal my ideas. Because I do a lot of Friday the 13th events. That's my kind of holiday. You'd think I had enough problems.
One thing you touched on a moment ago, and Scott reiterated it a bit, is your character types, though. Scott, you definitely have a type. But everyone has a type, literally. I mean, one of the things I learned at Shakespeare and Company when we did audition class was we all went around evaluating everyone that we had saw in the room, and we wrote down the types of characters we thought that, for example, you could play. You would write down the characters you think you could play on a sheet of paper. Then we did scenes, not all Shakespeare-based, but did scenes based on the character types. And in the end, most people had this broad vision of everything they're going to be able to play. And that's just not reality in the real movie world. That's fantasy land. I mean, and one of the things I realized is, and it's helped me become more successful, is targeting my character type. Yeah, I do have an advantage of being more diverse, but I have to focus in on the character type. I mean, my big two are a mobster and a cop.
Working a little bartender.
Or a bartender. Yeah, or bartender. Yeah.
I'm a mobster, a cop, or a bartender. What's up with that?
There you go.
Anything where I can be a wise ass. I wonder where that comes from.
I had no idea. You and wise ass do not fit together, that's for sure.
Right. Well, but I mean, some people play very... Look at someone like De Niro. I mean, you obviously can't get any better than him, but I remember him in what was the thing with Jerry Lewis in it? The King of Comedy.
Yes.
I mean, you couldn't have been more different than that.
Right, but to the point, you're looking at Robert De Niro, 20, 30 years of acting.
Right.
Back it all the way up to when he's a newbie, he's got to look for particular character types. Sylvester Stallone being stocky and fighting, he wrote a role for himself in Rocky that was very much fit his character type. Early on in his career, he had no lines at all. He was featured in Woody Allen's movie, which I don't remember which one. Well, he's on the train scene.
You know what else I remember him in? I think it was Prisoner of Second Avenue, where like Jack Lemmon mugs him and takes his wallet, thinking that he had mugged him.
Oh, that was Stallone in that one?
I'm pretty sure.
I didn't realize it was him. But when you focus on your character type, when you're up and coming, you'll end up getting more roles. And once you've established yourself, then it's the time to break out more. But too many people fight their type. I mean,
I'm happy to be a wise ass.
There you go. And you do it well. You do it very, very well.
Anybody looking for a wise ass?
Right here.
I'm available. Weddings, bar mitzvahs.
I mean, it's funny, on another project that I did where I was like, this is what my career is going to be. It was a short film called Consumed. I played this angry villager named John. It's supposed to be in England in the 1700s, something like that. And gets to a point where we're about to burn 2 children alive. And before that happens, their mother gets bludgeoned to death in front of them. And the director's like, all right, it's time to kill the mother. Do we have someone for that? Yeah,
this was a comedy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Disney.
yes.
It was Disney.
They're like, yeah, we got Scott. Scott, where are you? You ready to kill her? I was like, I'm coming. And they made the whole announcement. The person we have specifically just to kill this woman is me. And I'm like, why is it every time I'm in a film I'm murdering women here? Like, because I feel like this was shortly after we finished shooting Scars of a Predator. It's like about 4 in that one. I've got another one in this one. Just dead women all over the place.
Does that get frustrating, or are you happy to have something that you fit into so well?
I think it's good because, like, you know, when you have a shot for something, and things occasionally, like, will just get offered to you because you are known for it. So, I mean, unfortunately, a couple months ago, I randomly got an email asking if I was available to play a bouncer at some illegal strip club on a well-known show. And I was like, of course, because I'm not available this day, but I didn't apply for it. They just contacted me, and they're like, we need a big, scary guy to be in this seedy underground place full of naked women. How about you?
I just got a request for something for a guy in a tuxedo. I happen to have a tuxedo. They saw my picture on one of the casting networks, and I can play a guy in a tuxedo.
There you go. Can you play a guy in a tuxedo?
Exactly.
Can you do it? No. Okay.
Well, maybe.
Got to work on your range.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just need the
absolutely.
tuxedo.
And you can need a tuxedo.
I got the wig, but
Yeah, if you played other hair colors. Is that challenging for you? I'm just kidding. So, what type of role do you prefer that you haven't already done? Because you tend to be in a lot of horror movies, you've told me, right? Obviously, Joe's movie wasn't.
oh, comedy, more comedy. I want to do more comedy.
I got to write some funny stuff. Do you do comedy?
I
well,
do
you think?
comedy. I would like to do more. I want to do more like quirky, neurotic comedy. Quirky,
Wow.
neurotic comedy.
Quirky, neurotic
yeah, characters
comedy.
in comedy
Okay.
with
Well,
accents, like big characters.
You're kind of
Like a
narrowing
clown.
the field here. Quirky, neurotic character with accents. Anything else? Do they have to come from
clownish characters.
East Kentucky? It has to be filmed on a Tuesday. What color does your trailer have to be carpeted? Are you one of those people? I knew she was difficult.
No.
Now, you've worked with some pretty big names. Have you dealt with anybody who was real difficult like that? Because you always read about, there was one person they had to bring in a certain kind of water because they thought all water was like, mess them up, and it had to come from like, Mars or something. Or if you don't, they have to have the trailer carpeted a certain color. Do you have anybody crazy you work with?
I've heard stories like that. Honestly, I have never seen it ever. I'm talking
divas?
Hugh Jackman on The Greatest Showman right now. I'm one of the stagehands with that. Super nice guy, chatting with everybody. Donnie Wahlberg he's a Boston street kid, but a great freaking guy to work with on set. Mariska on SVU. I can remember us shooting right around Christmas time, and a lot of times they lock the door so you can't get to where your green room holding is or where the food is. You got to go through the offices. So they buzzed me into the office, and I see Mariska there with 2 cupcakes, and she looks at me and goes, "You see nothing? You see nothing." She keeps eating them. Adam Sandler, I was the bartender on Kevin Can Wait, the episode Adam Sandler's there also. And Adam and I talked quite a bit because he was where I was. And Chris also, who was the MMA fighter who plays Adam's partner, great freaking guy to work with. But I remember after I was chatting with Adam for a little bit, Adam Sandler literally went around to every table in all of Enzo's, the bar, and said hello to every single extra that was there. And I've seen this over and over and over again. I'm not sure if it's because the majority of the time when I'm on the major stuff, I'm on a television show, and it's not quite the same as a movie, but I mean, even on Sisters, I mean, John Cena was super nice to me. Bobby Moynihan was great. Tina loved me. You know, Tina was awesome to work with. Rachel Dratch was super nice on that set. I would be honestly pained and really have to stretch to think of anyone that wasn't nice to work with.
Scott, anybody nasty?
You're going for the dirt here, aren't you?
Hey, I'm trying to get ratings, all right?
There was one.
Okay.
And of course, it wasn't a just actor. It was a woman who was a model turned actor. Oh. And I'm not even sure if I should say names because then people get mad at you and then you don't get work. But
if you don't say names, we'll get mad at you. We're the ones on the couch with you.
Yeah, I mean...
No, it's okay. Whatever you're comfortable with. Names.
No, don't say your name.
Names. No, okay.
Don't say her name. just don't.
Tell us the story.
Tell us the story.
And then you say her name. Right. Initials.
This was actually on my very first project. I mean, some people might get a hint about this. I was playing an alien.
An alien?
Yes.
That works, okay.
An alien.
You are getting stereotyped, brother.
I know.
Dead.
Actually, I was so annoyed on that one. I was supposed to be a badass alien with a whole fight scene, and then the script got rewritten. And they're like, all right, now you're just going to be in the background somewhere looking stupid. So...
Those were your directions. The look stupid. Those specifically.
Yes, actually, while they were picking out clothes for me, they're like, we need to make you look completely outlandish and like you just have no idea what you're doing with yourself. So that's what I wound up with. But
yeah, who is this woman? What did she do?
You are not going to let this go, are you?
Hey, investigative reporter.
Sweet as could be around her A-list celebrity co-stars and the director. As soon as she got away from them, when she was just around her assistants or near the background, she was just spitting venom at everyone. Just
really.
Oh, she was awful.
We're going to talk later about this.
And at one point,
you got my curiosity.
One point, by the way, I was just kind of standing by myself. I saw her staring at me because I looked ridiculous. And I just looked at her. I went, oh, hello. And her reaction was, oh, and stormed off. Like, how dare I talk to her? I'm like, you are staring at me. You are being rude right now. And all I do is say hello, and you act like I just tried to smack you. Like, but that was my only time. Everyone else, really nice to everyone. Like I said, Michael Chiklis was joking around with me. Someone like called him to set. He's like, tell them I'll be there when I'm ready. And I'm looking at him, and he's like, hey, this guy thinks I'm serious. I'm not serious, buddy. Come on. What do you think we're doing here? And he goes walking on to say, you believe this guy? He thinks I'm serious. Ah. And it was just a fun thing for the rest of the night.
So, I mean, even Spielberg was super nice. I got trained with the 120 millimeter cameras, the old-fashioned 60s cameras for Bridge of Spies. There were about 8 of us that were photographers. We're all featured. We're all taking pictures. The first thing about Spielberg, he doesn't hang out in Video Village. Video Village is a section way offset where you have the monitors. A lot of directors hang there. But Spielberg is there with everybody, Alan Alda and Tom Hanks, and he's just walking around. He's got his iPad in his hand, and he can see what the camera is seeing. After we did our scenes, taking the photographs, Spielberg walks over to the 8 photographers. He looks right at us and says, guys, I just want to say, you look great. And as he turns and walks away, I said, thank you, Mr. Spielberg. He turns back and gives me one of those and walks away. I turned to the guys and I'm like, do you realize I just said
just
thank
got
you?
pointed at by
I
Steven
just said thank you to Steven Spielberg on a movie set. Like, how freaking awesome was that? But yeah, it's everyone's been super cool. I haven't had any bad experience. No.
So, this was your first starring role in a feature film, right, Scott?
Yes.
What was that experience like to get to see that finally? Other than relief. That was me.
Oh, I was so nervous. Because, I mean, like you said, we had so many things go wrong with this movie.
But not in what we actually got to see in the end, though. I got to say, it was one of the things I've always said about this. The cast was great. I mean, everyone did a really good job. It's very well acted. So, and I got to say, I mean, I'm kind of spoiled because I know directors a lot of times have to deal with prima donna, difficult, crazy actors. And other than Anthony, everybody was all right.
Yes, I want M&Ms, all the red ones removed. I need a decaf Coca latte, and it has to be from Benny's in Tuscany. I need you to go there. Yeah, whatever.
No, but, so this is interesting. So everyone's experience, for the most part. Samantha, do you deal with anybody who was unpleasant on set?
Nope.
So the whole acting profession is basically
Okay.
really nice people.
There was one person,
Anybody
but
ever
there was
been
only
anything
one.
with Russell Crowe?
No, I haven't been on set with him.
Actually,
Bless you.
it's funny. Something I've noticed.
You had a fight with Russell Crowe.
Way to go.
No.
Excellent.
Now, I've noticed for some reason in this industry, like the people who have really made it, like where this is what they've done, they're sweet as can be. Like a lot of them get it. They're like, I'm being paid to make movies. Like I have no reason to be pissed off at anyone about anything. Then you get like people who are just starting out who will act like they are the star of the show and will treat people around them horribly. It's the damnedest thing. Like, I mean, on that same first project, there were a whole lot of models doing featured background work. And the really gorgeous ones who had these long resumes were so nice to everyone around them. Anyone who like brought them something, oh my God, thank you so much. They would ask other people about themselves, including myself. And then you had, shall we say, the more average looking ones who were either just starting out or haven't had much work. Just such divas
Average
to
looking
everyone.
models. Isn't that kind of like a contradiction in terms, like military
Technically,
intelligence?
as long as someone
Jumbo
takes your
shrimp?
picture for something, you're a model.
Right. Okay.
I think I did something where they were calling me a model, and I was just like, I don't know why you're lying to me.
You're doing
right now, but that's
You're doing
cool.
swimsuit stuff now?
Oh boy.
Well, I know we're starting to get close to wrapping things up. And a lot of times I get so involved in conversation, we don't get to give people's quality contact information. So, Samantha, if people want to get a hold of you, not tie you to anything, but get a hold of you, that's my job. What do they do? Where do you have a website?
I have a website. It's SamanthaRiversCole.com. And you can find my contact information there. SamanthaRiversCole.com.
So what's with all the names, by the way? Is that actually your middle name? Or
It's my middle name. There's another Samantha Cole. Maybe you've heard of her. She has had some success in the music industry, and she also did some acting. So I have to be Samantha Rivers Cole to differentiate.
Very nice.
So.
You, young man,
Yes, sir.
what do we have to do to get a hold of you?
That would be...
Owe anybody money?
No.
No, not yet.
Not yet. People owe me money, but I don't owe
Okay.
anyone money. Congiano.com will be my website, and Anthony at Congiano.com if you want to say hi. I'm there.
Okay. You, Scott.
Unfortunately, I do not have a website yet.
Okay.
A lot of what I've just done is finally coming out, Andy. So I'll finally have something to put up on one.
Okay.
So we'll see when that comes up, but yeah.
My contact info. I do have an AndyTroy.com website, which I don't update that much because I'm on Facebook and all these other places so much. But AndyTroy.com, you can find me there. AndyFTroy at AOL.com, you can reach me there. And Facebook, The Andy Troy Show has a fan page. Scars of a Predator has a fan page. What else do I have? We have a YouTube channel, The Andy Troy Show. Follow it, like it, do all that kind of stuff. We're almost at the end of the show. Where else can they find me?
Here, right here.
I'm not giving my phone number. I'm on this couch. I'm on this couch every week or two. Look for me here.